Good afternoon, everybody. This is DCOM 20. I am in Auburn, New York. Right in front of me is the City of Auburn courthouse. That is where felony crimes occurred in a conspiracy between Lee Enterprises, Cuyahoga County, and the City of Auburn. Across the street to the right is the Cuyahoga County courthouse. That's where Cuyahoga County Judge John Bodelman works. He is a key member of the felony interstate conspiracy with Lee Enterprises. John Bodelman rigged the trial with the Auburn Police and Lee Enterprises, and they also were involved with unemployment insurance fraud. Yes, all of them. This document I have in front of me is very important. If you go to DCOM 20 and look at posts, you'll see a list of people involved in the conspiracy. Also involved, Richard Emanuel, former publisher of the Citizen newspaper owned by Lee Enterprises. Michael LaForte, editor at the Citizen by Lee Enterprises. This is on page 2 of this official document. Paige Jesse, human resources for Lee Enterprises, and others. What government agencies? City of Auburn, Cuyahoga County. What wrongdoing occurred with the District Attorney's Office and the City of Auburn? Conspiracy to commit unemployment insurance fraud against the pregnant female. Perjury, obstruction of justice, suborning perjury, tampering with witnesses, tampering with evidence. Lee Enterprises bribed Auburn police and prosecutors, that would be Auburn Police and the Cuyahoga County District Attorney's Office, in violation of the Lee Enterprises Code of Conduct, where Lee Enterprises did make an agreement to withhold news stories that would have compromised a criminal conspiracy between Cuyahoga County, the City of Auburn, and Lee Enterprises. John Bodelman has stated in the media that his office never goes into a trial unprepared in any way. John Bodelman knew full well that he was in a felony conspiracy with Lee Enterprises, and he chose to become part of a theft ring with Lee Enterprises, where Rick Emanuel, Lee Enterprises, would lie under oath, perjury, and state that certain people were going to be charged by John Bodelman when that was an absolute lie. Just part of the whole payoff bribery scheme. Let's see. The district attorney's case would have been destroyed if Bodelman and Vargason had actually followed the rule of law, but they resorted to perjury, tampering with evidence, obstructing justice, and so on. A bribe, giving and receiving. Lee Enterprises did agree with the city and county to withhold stories and to publish stories for furthering a fraud. This is clearly in violation of the company's code of conduct concerning investor fraud. Investors were never told that the Lee Enterprises CEO would be involved in unemployment fraud and knowingly enter into a criminal conspiracy with Auburn and Cuyahoga County and allow her employees to do the same. John Bodelman and Jim Vargason did fabricate a new motive and did withhold a motive that was stated by Lee Enterprises employees. With this alone, we have Bodelman knowingly lying to a jury, a district attorney. So then the complaint says, then let's stop the farce that Cuyahoga County is, okay? The City of Auburn, Cuyahoga County, you are crooked with Lee Enterprises, payoffs, bribes. The entire City of Auburn Police Department is a crooked mess where they rigged a trial and at the same time terrorizing a pregnant woman. You guys can't have two different stories, no matter how much Lee Enterprises pays you guys off. No matter how much the bribe was. I didn't get any bribe, so I'm not really not included, so I'm allowed to talk about it. And obviously the bribe was so much that Bodelman, Vargason, everybody on the criminal conspiracy list has not said anything to DCOM 20 that any of it is wrong, that any part of the conspiracy is wrong. But since DCOM 20 was not into payoff, he is allowed to speak, where the rest of them, of course, were paid off by Lee Enterprises to shut your mouth, to stick with the fraud, the racketeering story. And so that's why nobody says anything, because then the whole racketeering conspiracy involving Cuyahoga County, Lee Enterprises, City of Auburn would collapse. Let's continue. The mayor and chief of police in the city of Auburn, are they still working together to help Lee Enterprises get away with stealing about $6,000 through fraud from a pregnant woman? These groups also conspired in a criminal conspiracy, and they have continued to stay involved in a conspiracy. The city and county conspired to tamper with evidence, police reports, police statements. Auburn police coached witnesses to write only approved statements so jurors would never find out about exculpatory evidence. Auburn Police Department under Gary Giannotta had Lee Enterprises witnesses basically lie on official documents, and that was another part of the conspiracy. Lee Enterprises, let's see, bribery in the third degree. Lee Enterprises did make an agreement with John Bodeman and James Vargason and Auburn Police in violation of the Lee Enterprises Code of Conduct, where Lee Enterprises newspapers would print only agreed upon information in its newspapers instead of facts. This is investor fraud. Investors expect honesty from the CEO of Lee Enterprises and to follow the code of conduct, but Lee Enterprises did knowingly violate its code of conduct and conspired with Cuyahoga County and Lee Enterprises. While all citizens of the United States and companies are protected by the First Amendment, Lee Enterprises Code of Conduct is there to help investors to buy its stock on the grounds that the company is honest and will not withhold information to protect corrupt politicians and police officers. Further, Bodeman and Vargason would never simply make evidence disappear without knowing beforehand that Lee Enterprises would never print the news, even with the Code of Conduct. Tampering with public records in the second degree. Auburn Police Department, Lee Enterprises, John Bodeman, and James Vargason did conspire to conceal and destroy City of Auburn police records and Lee Enterprises reports. John Bodeman admitted to withholding evidence to Auburn City Court Judge Michael McCain. Bodeman admitted to, yes, there is a felony conspiracy involving Lee Enterprises and the City of Auburn. Judge John Bodeman, Republican, right here in Cuyahoga County. Tampering with public records in the first degree. Auburn Police Department and prosecutors did conceal and destroy records concerning the rigged trial in the city courthouse straight ahead. Criminal facilitation in the fourth degree. The stories of the witnesses of the prosecutors change while under oath, and yet it has continued. Bodeman coached his witnesses to lie under oath. Judge John Bodeman coached Lee Enterprises witnesses and Auburn police to lie under oath right there in front of us at the city courthouse. And the criminal conspiracy. This is the triangle of corruption. You got the courthouses right there, and then the Auburn Police Department straight ahead. Felony racketeers. Official misconduct. Auburn police and the DAs did conspire with Lee in order to benefit themselves. All the people listed above did this in order to get a conviction and to help Lee with its unemployment fraud case, offering a false instrument for filing in the second degree. Both Auburn police and the DAs did this. Auburn police conspired with Lee employees to make sure that police reports were void of anything that would not help their case to get a conviction. It was no coincidence that all police reports were void of anything that would have harmed their case. Then during the trial, John Bodeman had it carefully scripted as to when he would object and what his excuse was for withholding evidence and why his corrupt witnesses could not answer a basic question about exculpatory evidence. But John Bodeman's excuse did not cover all evidence. Police, Lee, and Bodeman all knew beforehand as to what was being withheld from jurors, the judge, and Mike Bass. They all had a well-orchestrated felony conspiracy racketeering scheme just to get a conviction right there in front of us in the Auburn City Court. And this is an exclusive to DCOM 20. Yes, Bodeman has stated that he and Vargason never go into a trial without being fully prepared for everything. We know that all evidence was collected and analyzed, and yet Bodeman and Vargason rigged a trial in a felony racketeering conspiracy with Lee Enterprises, payoffs and bribes. tampering with public records in the second degree. A person is guilty of tampering with public records when Bodeman does not have the authority of anyone entitled. He knowingly removes, mutilates, destroys records. Tampering with public records in the second degree is a Class A misdemeanor. Bodeman's office and the Auburn police, that would be Giannotta, Vargason, did conspire to withhold Lee Enterprise reports, Auburn police reports, and other evidence from jurors and others. That's part of the whole federal racketeering conspiracy here in the city of Auburn. New York State Bar Association, Bodeman and Vargason did violate civil rights and the law. They're both criminals. They both broke the law. Therefore, both are subject to be held to the standard of the New York State Bar Association rules. Neither lived up to that. They're both crooked, and they both know it, and that's why DCOM 20 can talk about this, and neither one of those two little terrorist crooks will ever say anything, ever. They both are guilty of withholding evidence, and both are guilty of suborning perjury. Bodeman and Vargason both obstructed justice. Bodeman and Vargason both lied to Judge McCain and jurors. Criminal felony conspiracy. That's Keuka County for you. Vargason and Bodeman conspired with Lee Enterprises to alter the date of the trial, and they made evidence disappear. These corrupt lawyers conspired with Lee Enterprises to make sure that the trial was set just hours after the birth of the pregnant female. These two district attorneys knew that they had to get a trial date set to when the victim could not be at his best. These crooked district attorneys have never notified anyone as to their arrangement, their felony conspiracy with Lee Enterprises about the trial date. That's part of the whole federal racketeering conspiracy rigged trial problem. District attorneys must keep their secrets, and fellow lawyers acting as judges will help them cover for that's falsifying evidence. Police and district attorney's office induced Lee Enterprises witnesses during a trial to lie and obstruct justice. In return, these government agencies did agree to help Lee Enterprises commit unemployment insurance fraud. And then Lee Enterprises, of course, had the whole bribery thing where Lee Enterprises would lie to all of the people who buy the newspapers. That's code of conduct, and that would be a bribe. Lee Enterprises bribed John Bodeman, Jim Vargason, Gary Giannotta, Sean Butler, and the rest of the people on that conspiracy list. Let's see. Bodeman and Vargason. This is what they did, Bar Association. A lawyer should not suppress any evidence. Bodeman and Vargason did that. They are guilty. Let's see. Bodeman and Vargason advised or caused a person to hide or leave the jurisdiction of a tribal for the purpose of making the person unavailable. Guilty. That's Lee Enterprises. Unlawfully obstruct another party's access to evidence. Guilty. Unlawful alter to destroy evidence. Guilty. Yeah, that's Bodeman and Vargason. Yeah, that's part of their whole rigging a trial and for a payoff by Lee Enterprises. Falsify evidence. Create or use evidence that the lawyer knows to be false. John Bodeman and Vargason did that. Guilty. They're crooks. And they rigged the trial right there in the city of Auburn. Induce a witness that is prohibited by law. Both DAs have allowed Lee Enterprises to use the prosecutor's names to further Lee's unemployment insurance fraud scam against the pregnant woman. So this is where we're going to talk about the whole terrorist thing. Vargason Bodeman told Lee Enterprises that, yes, you could lie to the Department of Labor to further your fraud and terrorize a pregnant woman, and go ahead and use the Keuka County District Attorney's name to further that fraud. Lie to him. Say she's going to be charged, and yet she wasn't. And never was, according to Vargason and Bodeman. So, massive fucking racketeering conspiracy. Sorry about the F word. Budeman and Vargason did conspire to tamper with evidence. Absolutely. No valid reason to do that. Let's see. Budeman and Vargason fabricated a motive. Yes. Lee Enterprises said another motive at another point, and then Budeman and Vargason, part of the federal racketeering conspiracy, invented another motive right there in front of us, part of that triangle of corruption. When did John Budeman and Jim Vargason decide to fabricate a motive that was completely contradicted by statements of Lee Enterprises? Well, that's a real question, by the way. When did Budeman and Vargason decide to invent a lie, really? Part of the whole racketeering conspiracy. While under oath during a hearing with the New York State Department of Labor, Richard Emanuel, who ran the Citizen newspaper down there, he was firing people and then lying to the Department of Labor, and the district attorney's office right here and Auburn police authorized him to perjure himself and use the two names of the government agencies to help him steal from those fired employees. Lee Enterprises was given permission by Gary Giannotta, the city of Auburn mayor. The entire city of Auburn and the entire government of Keuka County told Lee Enterprises, you are allowed to use our government names to help with fraud, federal racketeering, right? Interstate, it's federal crimes, right? It's across state lines, all right? And nobody's ever denied this, right? It's been long enough. Keuka County has now made it official. DCOM 20 is now exclusive right here. Keuka County, city of Auburn, have acknowledged or saying, yes, Lee Enterprises is allowed to use our names to further fraud in a federal fraud criminal conspiracy. And they could sue me if they want, but they haven't sued anybody yet. So it's true. All right. So attention, United States companies. If you're looking for mass layoffs, move your headquarters here to Auburn. OK. It's real easy. These cops and the government officials here are so crooked. OK, they're just so crooks. They're crooks. Move your government here. Have your employees come here and then start firing them, okay? And then go to the New York State Department of Labor and lie. You see, you're allowed to commit perjury in the New York State Department of Labor and say Keuka County and Lee Enterprises said they're going to be charged with various crimes, even though they're not going to, okay? And that's perfectly acceptable here in the city of Auburn and Keuka County, per their both governments, okay? So and then you can save all sorts of money through fraud, racketeering, federal crimes. Just do it. Hey, Lee Enterprises has been doing it for years. Lee Enterprise did it for years. Lee Enterprises did it with, they admitted it. And I got the evidence. Yeah, oh yeah, I got the evidence. That's why because I'm not going to make this up. You guys are fools. Wouldn't make this up. I got half the stack right here. Let's see. While under oath during a hearing with the New York State Department of Labor, Richard Emanuel, Lee Enterprises publisher, stated a motive that is completely different from the fabricated motive that John Budeman gave to jurors. This is unethical and grounds for debarment and part of a federal racketeering conspiracy, right? That's part of the whole, they rigged the trial. Let's continue. This further shows that Judge John Budeman could never let a jury see evidence, so he lied to a jury, withheld evidence, and entered into a criminal conspiracy with Lee Enterprises, Auburn police, about the tampered with evidence. Auburn police, Gary Giannotta, Sean Butler, Doug Parker already conducted an investigation before the trial. At what point did John Budeman read this report and then destroy this official police investigation? That goes towards that whole pregnant woman. These crooks and felons said the pregnant woman did what they said. Meanwhile, wrote 2 emails. Meanwhile, over there in the city of Auburn courthouse, they completely lied about that. John Budeman, that's where John Budeman just lied to a jury in a federal felony conspiracy with Lee Enterprises CEO Mary Junk, Lee Enterprises board of directors. Because remember, those 2 entities authorized the federal felony conspiracy to rig a trial and the unemployment fraud. They approved it all. John Budeman said, yeah, they all approved it. That's how corrupt these people are. And That's so, since they're corrupt, they obviously want DCOM to talk about it. And why everybody else is keeping it quiet, I don't know, and I don't really care. At what point did Gary Giannotta make the choice to go along with John Bodeman in conspiring to keep the investigation results from police statements and from jurors? Sean Butler also, and the rest of the crooked cops on that conspiracy list. At what point did Chief Gary Giannotta make the choice to go along with the conspiracy involving his office and detectives in withholding the reports? At what point did Giannotta make the deliberate choice to help Lee Enterprises defraud the pregnant woman out of $6,000? Gary Giannotta, a simple question, okay? Why is Gary Giannotta using his office to help Lee Enterprises defraud a pregnant woman out of $6,000? Why is John Bodeman still using his office to help Lee Enterprises defraud a pregnant woman out of $6,000? He has never said that, taking back his words. When did John Bodeman and Auburn Police make an agreement with Lee Enterprises to withhold exculpatory motive statements by Rick Emanuel, the perjurer and criminal, even though they were both required to turn it over to attorney Mike Bass, federal racketeering? Because when Lee Enterprises paid him off, when Lee Enterprises bribed him, I imagine when Lee Enterprises CEO and Lee Enterprises board of directors said, yes, we are going to break federal crimes to pay off Cuyahoga County Judge John Bodeman, Cuyahoga County District Attorney James Vargason, Auburn Police Chief Gary Giannotta, Auburn Police Chief Sean Butler, and dead crook Detective Doug Parker, and the rest of the crooks on that list. At what point did employees of Lee Enterprises notify John Bodeman and Auburn Police in complete violation of the Lee Enterprises Code of Conduct that all Lee Enterprises employees, that's that bribe, would completely ignore the facts of the case and fabricate a story that was void of the felony conspiracy? That's that whole bribe thing. Legitimate question. When did Lee Enterprises tell John Bodeman, Vargason, don't worry, we're going to bribe you, and with knowing that you'll never read anything about the racketeering conspiracy in Lee Enterprises publications, and you never have, and you had not yet. So, but they all admitted to it. So since they already admitted to it, why not talk about it? Well, that's what I'm doing. This is a matter of felony bribery and felony bribe receiving on the part of Lee Enterprises, Auburn Police Department. Now, this is City of Auburn. Now we got the mayor involved. We got the entire leadership of Cuyahoga County involved. They all seen DCOM 20 on YouTube or Facebook, and nobody has denied anything yet. And so, and John Bodeman already admitted to the federal racketeering conspiracy, and so Rick Emanuel's already dead. I wish it wasn't. When DCOM 20 started this, he wished, dear God Almighty, he wished Doug Parker and Rick Emanuel were alive. Then he did his first video, and then he was looking up Rick's name to make sure the spelling was correct. And DCOM 20 figured out, oh God, Rick's dead. And then he did the other crook, Doug Parker, Auburn Police Detective Doug Parker, crook, perjurer, criminal, and that goddamn guy's dead. It seems like they both died once they heard DCOM 20 was coming at him with exclusive reports of the federal racketeering conspiracy, and that still hurts DCOM 20 to this day, knowing that those two guys don't have the privilege and honor of seeing DCOM 20 and watching the rest of these people cower in fear of DCOM 20. The power. At what point did, as a public company, Lee Enterprises has very stringent guidelines that must be followed. For example, the Code of Conduct. Further, Bodeman is recorded as stating that he and his felony conspiracy boss, James Vargason, never go into a courtroom unprepared, so they knew the bribe was on. They would never take a chance to tamper with evidence and witnesses if they did not know that Lee Enterprises were in fully agreement to violate the Code of Conduct and bribe them and withhold stories. In doing this, Lee committed investor fraud. And investors did not know that Mary Junk and the board of directors are involved in a bribing conspiracy with government employees, and that the same government employees are also helping Lee Enterprises steal $6,000 from a pregnant woman via unemployment insurance fraud. You see these little rats. That's why these guys can't say nothing, right? There's a very good point right here. Lee Enterprises didn't tell their investors about this. Same John Bodeman walked into court and waited till the middle of court before he admitted to, yes, I am in a federal racketeering conspiracy, Lee Enterprises, where they will bribe me in federal bribes, and then in return, with the bribes would be Lee Enterprises would violates code of conduct, withhold all evidence from its newspapers, and in return, Cuyahoga County, the city of Auburn, would rig a trial and help Lee Enterprises steal in a felony conspiracy, perjury through unemployment insurance fraud. Unbelievable, but true. At what point did John Bodeman speak with former Lee Enterprises editor Michael LaForte concerning LaForte's testimony to the New York State Department of Labor, where LaForte and Manuel were sent by Lee Enterprises CEO Mary Junk to state that the pregnant woman sent the emails? Yeah, sorry. Michael LaForte, you are involved in the federal felony racketeering conspiracy. Michael LaForte was a publisher there at the Lee Enterprises, the Citizen, right down there. He worked for Ricky Manuel, and he was part of the felony conspiracy, along with Paige Jesse, who was part of the HR office. She knows all about who was fired and why and all of it, and yet, because she's kind of a scumbag, right? And she is part of the criminal conspiracy. She of course retired, but yeah, she's on the felony conspiracy here. Page 2, Ricky Manuel, Michael LaForte, Paige Jesse. Human Resources, Michael LaForte was editor at the Citizen, and of course Emmanuel was a publisher for the Citizen, both Lee Enterprises, and so they were both, all three of them, part of the conspiracy to rig a trial and the unemployment insurance fraud. Let's see. DCOM 20 oftentimes only posts page 1 of the conspiracy members. I haven't looked at this list in so long. There was that page 2, and that lists some of the others there: LaForte, Paige, Jesse. At what point did Doug Parker speak with Michael LaForte concerning LaForte's statements to New York State Department of Labor and how they were going to keep the facts from that hearing out of the police statements? Okay, so Doug Parker obviously had to have felony conspiracy interactions with Lee Enterprises employees with the full support of Lee Enterprises CEO Mary Junk on how to keep the paperwork correct so the felony racketeering conspiracy wasn't exposed in court. And of course, don't forget, all three groups are in the felony conspiracy to rig the date of the trial, right? These guys are crooks, man. I'm telling you. Judge Bodeman, you're a crook and a criminal. You're a terrorist, all right? You are a terrorist. And that's that. At what point did Auburn Police Chief Gary Giannotta and Deputy Chief Tom Murphy learn that his department was helping Lee Enterprises defraud the pregnant woman out of $6,000? And when did they decide to continue to allow their police department to continue to help Lee Enterprises with the company's efforts to defraud the pregnant woman out of $6,000? Simple question. I think Tom Murphy had a smoking lounge in the upstairs of the Auburn Police Department. So it goes towards what a crooked scumbags these people really are, right? Auburn Police, besides rigging a trial in a felony conspiracy with Lee Enterprises, besides being in a felony conspiracy to terrorize a pregnant woman through fraud and perjury and unemployment insurance fraud, they also had a smoking room in the Auburn Police Department where Tom Murphy would go up there. Tom Murphy went outside to smoke a lot less in the winter when it was bad weather. Where did he go? He went upstairs. That's part of the whole, part of the whole racketeering, felony conspiracy, disgusting human being issue that these Auburn police, city of Auburn now, really, the mayor, right? At what point did John Bodeman make the choice to allow Lee Enterprises to run an unemployment insurance fraud scam out of its Auburn city office, right? At some point, Cuyahoga County District Attorney's Office, Gary Giannotta, the entire police department, the entire Cuyahoga County, the entire city and county made an agreement with Lee Enterprises that they were allowed to. There goes an Auburn police cop right there. Is he part of the federal racketeering conspiracy? Is he going to rig a trial? Does he lie under oath to get a payoff from Lee Enterprises? I don't know. He looks awfully young. Probably not. At some point, the city of Auburn and Cuyahoga County told Lee Enterprises, you are allowed to run a perjury unemployment insurance scam out of the citizen office right down there, part of the triangle of corruption, and we will allow it to go on. And not only that, Rick Emanuel and Lee Enterprises were allowed to use the names of the Cuyahoga County and Lee Enterprises to further the frauds. Not just one employee, it was numerous. As far as I recall, I believe I have documents stating Lee Enterprises fights all insurance. So Lee Enterprises will fire somebody and they fight everybody. And what Lee Enterprises also will lie to the department, well, they'll commit perjury to the Department of Labor. Lee Enterprises, with the full support of the CEO and board of directors, will lie to the Department of Labor to further unemployment insurance fraud. And that's a fact, Jack. At what point did John Bodeman, Doug Parker, Sean Butler make a felony agreement with Lee Enterprises to make sure that all police statements were void of any information from the felony conspiracy involving Lee, Auburn Police, and Cuyahoga County, and conspiracy involving the quote-unquote Lee Enterprises versus the pregnant woman? This is the case where the offices of Bodeman, Parker, and Butler say the guy wasn't involved over there in the courthouse, right? So you got 10 different layers of felony racketeering conspiracy here. That was that 9? That was 9, A9, A10. At what point did Detective Doug Parker make an agreement to allow Lee Enterprises to use his name as a police officer to help Lee Enterprises with its unemployment insurance fraud scam that is currently underway against the pregnant female? Rick Emanuel, personally used Parker's name in an unemployment hearing 8 months before the trial. Wow. That's felony racketeering, federal conspiracy. That's why they can't take DCOM 20 to court. Well, because it's you guys are crooked, man. That's only 811, 810. 811. When did it become acceptable for the Cuyahoga County District Attorney's Office to fabricate a motive they knew to be contradicted by statements of their witnesses? You guys are crooked, okay? District Attorney's Office, you are crooks, liars, thieves, corrupt. You haven't denied it yet. You haven't said anything. So obviously the felony bribes are still going on. Who else bribes Cuyahoga County District Attorney's Office to make things happen? Besides Lee Enterprises. When will John Bodeman explain why he fabricated a motive during the trial there in the city court that he knew would be contradicted by Lee Enterprises publisher Rick Emanuel? Simple question. When did John Bodeman and James Vargason decide to withhold the statements by Lee Enterprises publisher Rick Emanuel where he stated a different motive than the one that they fabricated in court? That's part of that whole federal racketeering felony payoff bribery scheme involving Lee Enterprises and the city of Auburn, currently going on. That was A14. A15, that's his page 2. Auburn City Court Judge Michael McCain granted John Bodeman in his motion, John Bodeman's motion to have the trial scheduled to exactly within hours of the birth of the victim's daughter. It is obviously that John Bodeman and Lee Enterprises conspired to make sure the trial was held at a time when the victim was unable to provide a defense. That's part of that whole terrorist felony racketeering bribery conspiracy. Oh, by the way, who was the Lee Enterprises lawyer that John Bodeman spoke with concerning the felony racketeering conspiracy? It's a simple question. John Bodeman has yet to say who the felon conspiracy lawyer was, who helped rig the trial. Judge McCain, you personally knew of the corruption and also needed to help, let's start that over. Judge McCain, Judge McKean, who personally knew of corruption and also needed the help of Lee Enterprises to get re-elected, never bothered to ask Judge John Bodeman, Republican, about the specific reason for the date of the trial or the extremely suspicious timing of such a request. What was the matter that required a date for the trial? Well, the matter was Lee Enterprises, the city of Auburn, and Cuyahoga County were in a federal felony racketeering conspiracy, and they knew they needed to take advantage of all felony ways to get a conviction. So that's it. But of course, they had never bothered answering that, and so I just answered it for him because, well, Bodeman already admitted he's in a conspiracy. So, and we already got everybody else a bunch of perjurers and everything. The pregnant female gave me all these papers, and I got them all. I got Lee Enterprises documents, and they're all. I'm going to start reading them, and I'll just call them crooks every day, because obviously, the city of Auburn, Cuyahoga County, and Lee Enterprises stand up to the federal felony crimes. They're okay with the rigged trial. They're okay with unemployment insurance fraud. They're okay with the stealing. They're okay with the rigged trial. They stand by it. So let's talk about it. Okay, I will talk about it. This goes to just the level of corruption concerning Judge McKean. He knew because a lawyer told him that people couldn't prepare for a trial just hours after the birth of a daughter. So this crooked judge, Michael McKean, sets a date to help make sure the felons win, and then Michael McKean gets a good word in with his fellow crooked pals at Lee Police and the District Attorney's Office. Then after the trial, Michael McKean invited Lee Enterprises to his house for a personal party to get him reelected. So there you go. Oh, Michael McKean. So Michael McKean helps in many, many ways with the federal racketeering felony payoff bribery conspiracy. And then Michael McKean invites Lee Enterprises to his house for a personal party to get him reelected. Did you guys talk about any federal bribes then, Michael McKean? God, boy, I forgot about this. Oh, I got to come back to this. This is good. Michael McKean. So after you help rig a trial, and right there, then you invite the felons over to your house to get a payoff. Wow, Michael McKean, you are a scumbag, dude. Holy shit. That was 15A. Woo. I'm going to keep going. A16, who was a Lee Enterprises lawyer who works for Richard Emanuel, who gave Judge McKean an order to keep exculpatory evidence out of the trial. Michael Bass, during the trial, was ordered by Michael McKean to never speak about the fact that Lee Enterprises is in a whole different conspiracy with Cuyahoga County and Auburn Police. Michael McKean, the crooked judge, had to protect his corrupt pals at the Auburn Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, and his political supporters at Lee Enterprises, because after all, Michael McKean invited Lee Enterprises to his house after Michael McKean helped many, many ways with the federal racketeering payoff bribery, unemployment insurance, fraud, perjury scheme. Wow. Michael McKean, you are a crooked scumbag. Were you paid off, Michael McKean? Michael McKean, were you bribed by Lee Enterprises to help rig the trial? Michael McKean, when you walked to the Lee Enterprises office, when you went and begged Rick Emanuel for help getting elected, did he slip you cash, Michael McKean? Were you bribed right there, Michael McKean, to rig the trial? Michael McKean, hello, McKean, did you, Bodeman, Vargason, and the rest of the felons get together? Oh, I'm sorry, you're not a felon. We don't know that. We're questioning whether did you meet with the felons? Auburn, Cuyahoga County, Lee Enterprises. And at that point, did you collect envelopes of cash from them to rig the trial? Tell us, Michael McKean. clarify this, Michael McKean, because all I know is you look crooked as hell. You look like you rigged the trial. Look like, well, you knew about the corruption going on, and yet you did everything you could to help the felony conspiracy, Michael McKean. Michael McKean, as far as I'm concerned, you did everything you could to help with a felony racketeering conspiracy involving Lee Enterprises, Cayuga County, the cops, and then you had the racketeer, Lee Enterprises, come to your house for a personal party to get you re-elected. Wow, Michael McKean. Wow. Wow. Let's see. A16. Michael McKean had to protect his crooked pals. That's obviously. Michael McKean has more than 100,000 reasons to allow himself to be corrupted. His paycheck. Lee helps Michael McKean win elections, and McKean turns a blind eye to corruption. That's true. Yes, yeah, that's Michael McKean. That's the city of Auburn. This entire county's paid off. Are you guys still paid off? Okay, let's see. Like a good corrupt judge, Michael McKean hears about the corruption with Bodeman, Vargason, Auburn Police, and Lee Enterprises, and how that will help him get re-elected. Help McKean get elected to his $100,000 plus income job, and he will help him keep his $100,000 plus income job, and he will throw people in prison for you, even though he sees corruption. This is a fact and reminiscent of 1930s Germany and the Soviet Union. Let's go over some of that again. A16. Michael McKean hears about federal racketeering crimes going on right in front of his bald, stupid, crooked face, right there in the city courthouse. And he must think, let's see, $100,000 or go along with a federal racketeering conspiracy. Michael McKean took the paycheck, obviously. Let's continue. A17. When did Bodeman, Vargason, Parker, Butler, and Auburn Police Identification Bureau, which includes John Bodeman's campaign manager, Sergeant Joseph DeVitro, who was in complete control of all evidence in this case, agreed to withhold evidence from my jury. Wow, I forgot about that. A17. Who knew? Bodeman's campaign manager, Sergeant Joseph DeVitro, was in complete control of all of evidence. And guess what? Guess what happened? Evidence was withheld. Wow, Joe DeVitro, did you take a bribe? Are you a crook with Lee Enterprises? Or were you paid off, Joe DeVitro? Tell us, Joe DeVitro, okay? Tell me in court. Tell me about the crimes. Wow. The Lee Enterprises investigation that I found shows that there's different stories, but yet these crooks only came up with one. Prosecutors had Lee reports and police reports. Then they all agreed that they must make the reports disappear and make sure the jury in the trial never saw the reports. This is a fact and undisputable. That's part of the federal racketeering conspiracy. We know that John Bodeman's office, Cayuga County District Attorney's Office, Auburn Police in the city of Auburn began helping Lee Enterprises defraud a pregnant woman out of $6,000 long ago. John Bodeman's campaign manager, Sergeant Joe DeVitro's office, is responsible for the processing of all evidence collected. Once evidence is collected and processed, the Bureau is responsible for its maintenance and safekeeping. So John Bodeman's campaign manager, apparently, maybe, well, yes, evidence was withheld in that trial. Evidence was destroyed. Joe DeVitro, besides getting John Bodeman, helping him get elected, is also involved with a federal racketeering conspiracy. Joe DeVitro, tell me about the evidence that you withheld in the federal racketeering conspiracy. Joe DeVitro, tell me about the payoff from Lee Enterprises for your help in rigging a trial, Joe DeVitro. Joe DeVitro, how much is John Bodeman bribing you to help him rig trials, John Bodeman? Huh? How much you guys sound like a bunch of felons, okay? Yeah. Tell us, Joe DeVitro. I'll be happy to talk about it in court, too, okay? I'm free, okay? Yeah, explain it to me in court, Javitro, okay? The bribe from Lee Enterprises on all of your crooked, unbelievable, shocking help with rigging a trial and helping Lee Enterprises steal money from a pregnant woman. Joe DeVitro, fucking terrorist and campaign manager for Bodelman. Unbelievable. Rigs trial, and then the guy who rigged the trial, he helps him get elected. This is unbelievable. Holy smokes. That's only A17. It's A17 is 3 parts. A17, A18. With 2 members of the local media with DCOM 20. That was me. I personally hand-delivered a formal complaint to Auburn Police Lieutenant Sean Butler, who is a full-blown member of the felony conspiracy, with orders for him to deliver the police to the police chief or deputy chief. That little punk-ass Parker had because he's such a little fucking terrorist, right? Crook cop. He had a smug little punk-ass attitude on him. But he's failed football and too stupid to be a lawyer, so what do you expect out of a little coward? Sean Butler. The complaint pointed out how members of the police department were involved in a conspiracy with Lee Enterprises to defraud a pregnant woman out of $6,000. All right? I personally hand-delivered a complaint to the Auburn City Mayor's office, to the current mayor. I previously filed a complaint to Tim Lattimore. All right? So, at what point did these mayors authorize the Auburn Police Department to help Lee Enterprises try to steal money out of $6,000 through unemployment insurance fraud? It is a fact that neither mayor has done anything to stop Auburn Police Chief Gary Giannotta from allowing members of his police force to help Lee Enterprises defraud a pregnant woman through perjury. I call it terrorism. All right? It's just a bunch of crooked terrorist cops. When did John Bodelman make an agreement not to charge Lee Enterprises with fraud, but to actually help Lee Enterprises defraud people? The district attorney is also an advisor to Auburn Police. So, yeah, there you go. That's A19, including Butler, Parker, Giannotta. When did Bodelman notify Butler, Parker, and Auburn Police of the fact that he had been told by Lee to withhold all evidence that Auburn Police had? John actually admitted to tampering with evidence and suborning perjury. Cayuga County Judge John Bodelman. I too have been in contact with the counsels of Lee Enterprises. They also directed me, John Bodelman said. Was John Bodelman, quote unquote, directed to do? What was Bodelman directed to do for Lee Enterprises and Rick Emanuel? John Bodelman obviously tampered with evidence. After being directed to hide evidence from jurors, Bodelman had meetings with Sean Butler and Parker, part of the federal racketeering conspiracy. These 2 cops were directed by Bodelman, right? And these cops then fabricated police reports, fabricated evidence, lied to jurors, and lied to Judge Michael McKean. Police had all the records from Lee. Instead of following the rules of law and releasing the records, Bodelman and Parker went along with the felony conspiracy involving Bodelman, Vargason, Lee Enterprises CEO, Mary Junk, Lee Enterprises Board of Directors, and, quote, the councils of Lee Enterprises, and performed their part in the crimes. Auburn police were also directed to hide evidence, lie on sworn documents that were then given to Judge McKean, and to fabricate a fraudulent and a case which was fraudulent and fictitious for the jurors. Let's see. Conclusion. I can easily prove a criminal conspiracy between these 3 entities, Lee Enterprises, Auburn Police, and District Attorney's Office. I spent, let's see. Yeah, that's obvious. So one of the first documents that was withheld by in the felony racketeering conspiracy was this one. Rick Emanuel to New York State Department of Labor. I have it right here. It's on top. It says Document E. It says the pregnant woman was terminated from the Citizen after an investigation regarding inappropriate emails being sent from her home computer Let's see. An investigation immediately ensued by Lee Enterprises, and Lee Enterprises corporate network technicians, along with Auburn police, were able to confirm that these emails were sent from an internet service provider subscribed by the pregnant female. The pregnant female was given the opportunity to clear her name as to whether she or someone else in her household had sent the emails, and she failed to do so with us or the Auburn Police Department. Wait a minute. Well, that's not true. The Auburn Police Department never said anything to her. Wow, this is actually this is a lie. So we got Ricky Manuel lying right here. Wow, well, could John Bodeman, of course, being that a federal racketeer, crook, criminal, liar, thief, terrorist, John Bodeman withheld this one document. Unbelievable. Oh, right here on the top. Here's the social security number of the pregnant woman. And I have it right here. This is an internal, wow, look at this. I have to New York State Department of Labor from Richard J. Emanuel, publisher, The Citizen, Auburn, New York. Reason, the pregnant woman, then her social security number, and then all this information. Wow. And it said, well, this isn't what the Auburn cops and John Bodeman said in court. This is exactly quite the opposite. Oh, this is part of that whole bribery, racketeering conspiracy where the felons at the Auburn Police, Lee Enterprises, and Cuyahoga County had to agree to withhold this document. Oh, that's just one. Okay, and there's a lot. There's so much more. Wow. Oh, here's another one. The pregnant woman. Let's see, Amtech, P.O. Box 118, East Syracuse, New York, 13057. There's Lee Enterprises, right? Mailed and filed. Oh, look at this. Oh, look. This says the pregnant woman did it. Oh, John Bodeman withheld that one too in a federal racketeering conspiracy. Wow, John. Oh, wait, you didn't withhold that one. That was afterward. But there were several others that John Bodeman. No, the federal, the fraud, right? Bodeman and Vargason's choice to continue to help Lee Enterprises in a federal racketeering fraud conspiracy continued years and years and years and years later. Years and years and years. Okay? Wow. 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 So Lee Enterprises, when they realized that they were getting involved in a federal felony conspiracy, Lee Enterprises hired Amtech Human Resources. Let's see. Oh, look. Ricky Manuel, the crooks and felons, Republican Cuyahoga County Judge John Bodeman withheld this. Charges are pending against the claimant and her husband. Oh, boy, that was withheld by Auburn Police and Lee Enterprises in Cuyahoga County. Oh, that's why these felons don't say anything to DCOM 20, because you're supposed to turn that over. Oh, but it's part of the whole racketeering. Oh, God, you guys should have told somebody. Sorry, John. That's why you don't say nothing. Wow. Oh, that's a lie. John, how come you didn't tell us that? Oh, because you're a crook. A pattern of felony conspiracy. Wow. Then the pregnant female. Oh, look what she wrote. Just part. Ultimately, her name, the pregnant female, was cleared when another person was arrested, tried, and convicted of writing the two emails, and felon John Bodeman told a jury and a judge that another person was the only person responsible for authoring the emails. But yet, here we got years later, Lee Enterprises continues to lie, perjure themselves to the Department of Labor with the full support of Gary Giannotta, Sean Butler, Vargason, Bodeman, the entire city of Auburn, the mayor, right? The Cuyahoga County leadership. You are all involved in federal racketeering. Wow. Unemployment insurance fraud. You all said, yeah, we know about it, and yeah, we don't care because Lee Enterprises paid us off. It's more important to get a bribe from Lee Enterprises here in this county. Unbelievable. Another person was arrested, tried, and convicted. Ricky Manuel testified that he always believed somebody else to be the author of the emails and never the pregnant woman. Yet, Ricky Manuel, in the Department of Labor, in a federal felony conspiracy with the city of Auburn and Cuyahoga County, continued to say to the Department of Labor in New York State, across state lines, that she did it, she was fully responsible for the emails, and that's why she should not get unemployment insurance fraud. Wow. So the federal payoff bribery scheme was going on for years. Sean Butler, because he is such a loyal crook, criminal, felon member of the conspiracy, was given the chief of police job as a reward for his participation in the federal felony crimes and payoff racketeering scheme with Lee Enterprises. That's just the truth. How else would he get a job, right? It isn't because he's bright. No, it isn't because he's smart. No, it's because he's a crook. He helped Lee Enterprises steal. They failed because the cops are stupid and crooks, right? Lee Enterprises, Bodeman, Lee Enterprises, you're all too stupid, and sadly, the facts weren't there, right? No matter how much these crooks tried to steal that money from that pregnant woman, the facts weren't there. But even the high IQ pregnant woman, all right, she probably is high, she could have been a lawyer. Even with her high IQ, it still took her time. But actually, it wasn't that. It was really DCOM 20 did it for her, right? DCOM 20 won it for her. So really, and then DCOM 20 spent that $6,000 on himself. And now I'm reading these statements and telling the truth. Yeah, so there you go. Let's see. What else did the pregnant woman say? I should not be punished for something that no one involved with the case, including Rick Emanuel, believed I did. The pregnant woman said that. But yet, Rick Emanuel, for years, said she did it. Wow, you guys are crooks. So there's a lot more to that. That was her appeal, where she had to tell the truth, really. And, well, the truth comes out and truth hurts. Oh, let's see. Let's talk about some of the John Bodeman's replies. John Bodeman demonstrated that there was just one person with the necessary ingredients to make this crime happen. He said it was not the pregnant woman. Wow. So, Bodeman. So, how do you explain this? So, when Rick Emanuel needs your help stealing $6,000, you say she did it. But yet, right here, you say this. And this racket, this felony racket, still going on, okay? Even though she won $6,000 back, which she didn't win it, it was hers, right? Despite the felony crimes, attempts by these crooks to steal it, it failed. And obviously, Bodeman, in the trial right there, the truth, he knew the truth would hurt. He knew being halfway honest, a quarter honest, wouldn't work. So Bodeman went full-blown felony criminal. Let's see. The witnesses were Doug Parker. He's a part of the criminal conspiracy. Emanuel, criminal conspiracy. Greg Vian, yeah, he's part of the federal racketeering conspiracy. I've already told him. Yeah, nobody gets back. Jean Bennett, she was honest. I believe she was the only honest one not involved in the felony bribery, racketeering, payoff, stealing conspiracy here in Cuyahoga County. Jean Bennett was honest. Paige Jesse, not honest. John Heinlein, God, I don't remember him. Sean Butler, he was a crook. Lefort, yeah, he was part of the felony conspiracy. Oh, yes. Yep. All right, this is good. We're good. We're done for today. Thank you, DCOP 20.